For Victims and Villains, my name is Josh, and today we are talking about the independent horror comedy, a part of this year's Fantasia Festival 2025. This is Hold the Fort. The Fort is a horror comedy that tells the story of an HOA that once a year has to face off against creatures of hell as a portal opens between the worlds. If you couldn't tell from my brief description of what this movie is about, the fact that I was trying to hide a smile just should tell you everything that you need to know about this movie. This movie is just utterly delightful. I had so much fun with this movie. It has a breakneck pace. This film is under 80 minutes. And it kind of really grips you from probably the first 10 minutes, which I feel like is rare nowadays to kind of find a film that grips you on so early. And this movie, I just had an absolute ball with from start to finish. This movie understands the assignment. It understands that it is absurd and it embraces that boldly, proudly, and confidently. What I think is really interesting to note about this movie is whether or not it was intentional or not. I know many people that despise HOAs, and so much so that there's actually a character in here at the very beginning that has that type of mentality. But for those that I know that live under HOAs, I would describe them as almost like HOAs being a sect of hell on earth. And so I think it's really funny and kind of hilariously meta that this film takes a in this universe type of hell on earth and have them face off against the actual forces of hell with some really hilarious results. This movie's not afraid to get messy, and that's kind of what makes this movie both hilarious and a bloody good time. When I say bloody, emphasis on that. This movie is surprisingly gory for a movie that I was not expecting to be surprisingly gory, and it's a lot of fun because of it. This movie almost feels like a love letter to the 80s and to like maybe even 70s like drive-in cinema, where this movie feels like it embraces the absurdity of like 60s and 70s sci-fi along with the 80s era of direct-to-video. Just these quiet hidden little gems, which, mark my words, this will be a hidden gem of 2025. I'm calling it now. We're about halfway through it. This is probably the one that I'm going to be recommending to people to check out most. Another reason why I love indie cinema. But there's a character that I'll get to in a second that just feels like every stereotype of 80s action movie stars, a la people like Jean-Claude Van Damme, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, and really just parodies them so beautifully. Hamid Reza Benjamin Thomas plays this breakout character. His name is McScruffy, and he just feels like the gas fueling this insane ride of just nonsense, debauchery, and hilarious one-liners. And really, I feel like this film just is elevated to a whole nother level. There's just something about Thomas in this role, the way that he interacts with other characters, and he's a secondary character. But in the first act builds his character up as like this legend and this lore. By the time you actually get to him, like, you see where they take his character, it's just very surprising, but also, again, he's very funny. He's very awesome. Totally lives up to the legend. But I love how simple this movie is. This movie is essentially a single location film and thrives in that simplicity because it is just allowed to just kind of get creative and just be as batshit crazy as possible. And that's what makes this movie so freaking fun. And so with that said, I am ready to run this one through our Rorschach rating scale. I'm going to go ahead and give Hold the Fort an official selection of Fantasia Fest 2025 a 4.5 out of 5 overall, this is just delightful. It's the best way that I can put it. If you are a fan of 80s action movies, B movies, 70s underground sci-fi films, movies that are so bad that they are good, this is one that you need to put on your list. This movie had an incredible script, an incredible concept. It's way smarter and way funnier than it has any right being. And all around, it is just one of the best cinematic experiences that I have had this year. And mark my words, it'll go down as a hidden gem for this year. As you're watching this video, Hold the Fort has just made its world premiere at Fantasia Fest. As of right now, as of this video, there are currently no distribution deals that I know of, so I do not know when you will be able to experience this. I do believe the filmmakers are going to take this on a film festival tour, and it will make the rounds around the festival circuit. But in the show notes below, you guys will find links to our social media. Hit those follow buttons and make sure that you guys stay in touch so that when we actually do learn of this getting distribution, we will absolutely let you guys know. And now it's time for mental health moment. If you guys are new to our content here at Victims and Villains, we do this thing called Mental Health Moment, where we take a theme of mental health out of the film which we're reviewing, talk about it for a few moments in the hopes to deconstruct the stigma surrounding mental health. For as goofy as this movie is, it also serves as a stark reminder not to judge a book by its cover. Just because a person is in a line of work that you don't necessarily agree with, or person is into X, Y, and Z fandom, or whatever the case is, you know, whether it's the color of their skin, their sexual identity, their gender identity, never really judge a book by its cover. Get to know the person. And you might actually find out that you have a lot in common with them and that they're really awesome people at the end of those characteristics. One of the things that I think is this film does really well, for as goofy as it is like I said, we have an archetype character that we meet here in this film very early on that kind of despises and already has these preconceived notions of the HOA or the people that make up the HOA. That same character later on in the films, near the film's climax, is actually getting to just rattling off all of these facts about these people that she has just kind of gotten to know over the last several hours and why they were truly remarkable people. It's this beautiful moment that exists in the quiet pocket of this chaotic movie. And in the grand scheme of another fellow release, Superman talking about how it is punk rock to be kind. That's what we see here. Someone stopping and listening and understanding. Kindness is blooming from that moment. That's what we all need a little bit more of right now, is we all need to be a little bit more caring, a little bit more kind, and a little bit more patient. Because those things that others judge us for, they have an effect on our mental health, not just for the people being judged, but also the people doing the judgment. As someone that has been on both ends of that stick, it's not fun. And it ultimately has these lasting effects from those that are being judged on an individual's identity, sense of worth, sense of value. So this is your challenge to stop, be kind, be patient, and listen. It might be the difference between someone being here today and someone being here tomorrow. If you or someone you know is struggling with suicide, addiction, self-harm, or depression, please click the links in our show notes below to check out our mental health resource library. Once again, Hold the Fort is an official selection of this year's Fantasia Festival. It currently has no distribution deals or no plans currently in place following this year's Fantasia Festival. It may run the festival circuit, it may not, but keep an eye on the socials so that we can keep you guys updated. And in the show notes below, you guys will also find links to our social media, that follow button, more movie reviews like this, links to our podcast network, how to support us, and once again, our mental health resource library. So until next time, remember to keep it spooky, keep it classy. Have a good night.